I'm just so intrigued to live today. Look at the history of humanity. Almost everything that matters, from our cell phones to cameras that surround me at this very moment, to our airplane tickets. All that stuff has been invented in the last 150 years. Humanity is like hundreds of thousands of years old, give or take. If you scale this, then the last 150 years have been special. Now, how about the next 50 years? They'll be even more special. I can't wait.
Our next speaker is really one of the highlights of our entire day. Please welcome Sebastian Thrun, founder of Udacity.
Good morning. Good morning. My God. The reason why Udacity exists is you.
I think people honestly think of him as a rock star in many ways, and I think in reality he's pretty humble.
He's brilliant, he's creative, and he's fearless.
Sebastian is really someone who defines that, what we call that 10x thinking, kind of extreme, out of the box and ambitious outlook on almost any project, to really think about things differently.
I have this dream that if we can make education globally, universally available, if it doesn't matter whether you live in the Middle East or in South America, you get the same education everywhere, that we can completely transform the world.
He looked at a problem that other people had looked at, how do we educate people better? But he came up with a different framing of it, and I think that's really his genius.
I want to thank all of you for the trust you're putting in us by giving us your time, your attention, and coming here. You guys are my heroes, and we do what we do because of you. Thank you.
I have a present for you that I'd like you to...
Oh my God, a TI-57. Nice. Oh my God. With a battery. Where did you find this? So you did your research. That's awesome. So this is my buddy. Between my age of maybe 12 and 14, I spent every afternoon programming it. It has 50 steps, so it memorizes keystrokes. And I programmed video games, I programmed geometric calculations and all kinds of stuff.
It's fascinating to work with him because his mind goes at 1,000,000 miles a second, absolute million, and in all kinds of disparate ways.
I'm an odd bird. Maybe I'm socially challenged or what have you, but at a time when computers weren't used by anybody, I came across this programmable calculator, which was slightly more expensive than the non-programmable one. And I developed a passion for lying in bed and just figuring out what can you do with 50 programming steps. Like 50 programming steps is a joke by today's computers, but at the time it was actually significant. This thing, by the way, when you switch it off, it erases itself. So the next day you try it, you have to start all over again. So I spent a lot of time, and then I really liked it because at the time it was intriguing that there was something around me, my world, when I told to do something, if you did it. Right? Whereas everyone else around me, my parents, my siblings and so on, I would say do this and they would never do it. So I had a partner, I had a friend. I did this for quite a while. And a little bit later, I got a real computer. And that allowed me to do real programming at a bigger scale. So it has these huge floppy disk drive that you could flop in and had like 0.5 kilobyte of memory, whatever it was. And there I started programming until I was about 16 or so. And then something bizarre happened. I kind of lost interest a little bit. And the reason I lost interest is I became more interested in people, and I always felt that while computers do exactly what you tell them to do, that's what makes them boring. I think the nuances of human interaction and is a much more fascinating thing. So when I went to college, I did choose computer science as my major, but I dabbled in philosophy and in biology, medicine, I do my major in medicine, in a whole bunch of psychology, a whole bunch of disciplines that have to do with people. And I was just fascinated by people. Like, I think this is maybe a small version of a person, this is a bigger version of a person. There must be some commonality. Like, how can we decipher the machine over here in its complexity and get it to the level over here? And the field that did this at the time was called artificial intelligence.
The first time I encountered Sebastian, I guess, was via email. He had been enrolled at Bonn University in Germany as a PhD student. And he was interested in spending some time at Carnegie Mellon.
Artificial intelligence was in infancy. It's not a very famous field. It's not anywhere it is today. But people in artificial intelligence, they really want to understand how the human brain works and how can we put a brain into a machine. That's how I became an AI researcher.
And this is a very powerful calculator.
Because we are now moving into the era of household computers.
I mean, the idea is that eventually everyone will use a computer as a very important tool.
What will life really be like in the next century? Reed Simmons and Sebastian Thrun are with Carnegie Mellon University's Robotics Institute, and they're here with one of their creations, Flo, the nurse bot. Gentlemen, good morning, and Flo, hello.
Hi, Katie.
Now, obviously, this is a prototype. When do you expect robots like Flo, Sebastian, to actually be in nursing homes or hospitals or private homes?
I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see something happening here, and we're going to see these robots coming. It's not a question of the if anymore, it's just a question of the when.
He really does believe in an optimistic world. His world of AI is not controlled by all these robots that are going to take us out of jobs. It's just not.
I felt if we in Silicon Valley only build these crazy technologies and monetize them and get very rich, then we're leaving people behind. And that's not good.
I'm Associate Professor of Computer Science at Stanford University, and I'm the leader of the Stanford racing team.
My very first thing I did in Stanford was building a self-driving car. And we competed in something called DARPA Grand Challenge. DARPA Grand Challenge took place in 2005, and it was basically an autonomous car, a robot race through the Mojave Desert.
In this race, if you make a mistake in finding the road, you fall down a cliff, you run into a rock. So finding the road and just finding out where it is was the hardest thing we faced.
Almost 200 teams had stood in line to participate with the idea that the team that could build a car that could drive 130 miles autonomously the fastest would make $2 million.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's been done. How about that?
My team ended up to be the lucky winner for whatever reason, Stanford team.
This is a beginning. We have shown that we can build cars that can drive themselves. The impossible has been achieved. Now it's just a matter of time until it happens, and it will happen, I promise you.
And we got the attention of the Google founders, yeah. So Larry came to the race itself and came disguised with like a hat and sunglasses so he wouldn't be bothered by everybody. But he had a keen interest in this. Larry has been a believer in this technology for much longer than I even knew. And so is Sergey. And they really want to understand what's going on.
42,000 people die every year in the United States in traffic accidents. It's the #1 cause of death, aged 3 to 33. It's huge.
Built the next version of a self-driving car for something called Urban Challenge. And in that process, we did something really interesting. We had a camera on the roof that looked in all directions, like a spherical camera, like 360. And we were recording video, mostly for debugging purposes, that we could sit down in the evening and say, why did the car do this? And record the video and say, oh, that's why. And then we realized the video is actually amazing. So born was the idea of Street View. So we went back to Google and said, hey, we'd love to build or help you build Street View. And we kind of felt like an acquisition of a little startup company, kind of Stanford, transitioning into Google, where me and 4 of my grad students then became Street View enthusiasts. And we built up Street View and with a singular vision to photograph every street in the world.
For people like myself who are not as smart as he is, you have to kind of keep up with it. But it's this insatiable curiosity and creativity that I love working with. And you just get to learn a lot. So if I'm with Sebastian, I'm on this wild ride of incredible learning.
Google also getting lots of attention today for the launch of its new Street View feature.
We're building a website that's helping people communicate in a completely different way.
The confidence in this marketplace continues to deteriorate.
Google is developing a robo-car that drives itself.
We started Google X with the self-driving car project. And the idea was to really kind of build an innovation center that has authority to just do crazy things. We had a separate building that no one knew about. At least for a year and a half, no one in Google had a clue we existed.
He was I believe, a Google fellow. I had heard about that reputation and heard that it was a kind of a fairly visionary position.
I think it's exciting to be doing this project, specifically at Google, because it shows that Google is taking big bets for the future.
People know that Google's quirky and that odd things happen around that campus, but I don't think at the time people fully embraced the idea that this was going to become something that affected broader society anytime soon. It was just sort of those quirky Google people working on something.
When we started the self-driving car project, Larry in particular, and of course Sergey and Eric, really kind of came to me and said, Sebastian, you should do it.
Three of us worked hard to systematize innovation. That is, we didn't want to just have an idea, we wanted to let people have ideas and just do them and have hits over and over again.
I even thought at the time it might not even be possible to drive in a public safety. And Larry, in his infinite wisdom, said, okay, Sebastian, prove to me it's not possible, which I couldn't. And then he and Sergey sat down for half a day and carved out 1,000 miles in California that are really hard to drive, like downtown San Francisco, Lombard Street, Highway 1 to Los Angeles, and streets that are really insanely hard to drive. And said, look, if you drive those well and completely autonomous, then you make a bonus. All right, interesting. Okay, but it can't be done. We talked to this, and he basically said, look, it can be done, people can do it, just do it. And to my complete surprise, blows my mind, about 15 months later, a team of 12 engineers did it.
Today he's going to talk about something, this is a new, wie sagt man, ein Durchbruch, a groundbreaking a breakthrough of something that could shake up the world of the universities, the way education is looked at today. And I'm very happy that you're going to talk about this amazing project. Come up on stage, Sebastian Thrun.
I'm not going to talk about cars. I'm not going to talk about Google X. I just want to tell you a story that changed my life in a really profound way. And the story starts at TED, where I met Maria. There was a speaker whose name was Salman Khan.
Yes, so it was at TED. I listened to a young fellow named Salman Khan who started something called Khan Academy. And he was like an investment banker, had no teaching credentials, but his teaching videos went viral. He had like tens of millions of students. And I was sitting at Stanford with my typical class of like 50 and thinking, God damn it, I can do that. So I went to my co-instructor, we were just about to teach a class on artificial intelligence, and asked him, hey, what do you think of putting this class online? He said, let's do it. So we wrote an email to all our colleagues and said, hey, if your students want to take this artificial intelligence class, they can sign up over here and take it. We expected maybe, 500 students at best to show up. This is all Friday afternoon. Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, 5,000 students. Sunday morning, 10,000 students. Monday morning, 14,000 students. When my dean found out about it, and he gave me a phone call and said, come to my office, please, Sebastian, because the blogosphere was praising Stanford for finally abandoning tuition. Lo and behold, when everything was said and done, we had 160,000 students. Of those 160,000 students, 23,000 graduated. And when they graduated, we stack ranked those students with the Stanford students. We give them the same exam, same work assignments, so we could really compare them. The top 412 students were not at Stanford. The single best Stanford student was number 413.
I was at Stanford, the world's best university, and I was a great teacher. Having done this, I can't teach at Stanford again. I feel like there's a red pill and a blue pill, and you can take the blue pill and go back to your classroom and lecture your 20 students. But I've taken the red pill, and I've seen Wonderland.
It was kind of like a calling to me. I hadn't anticipated that I'd become an online instructor or CEO of a company, a founder of a company that wants to democratize education. But when I realized that with this one class, I had more teaching impact in this specific quarter than like the entire academic field combined in the entire world, I realized, my God, there's something has to be done. I was head of Google X. My name was in the news at least 3 times a week for something. And here I am giving up 97% of my salary.
Our next guest gave up his tenure at Stanford University to try to democratize higher education with his company, Udacity. You did an experiment back in 2011 where you put one of your classes online. You offered the Introduction to Artificial Intelligence. Who showed up to see that class?
To my complete surprise, we got 160,000 students to show up.
Whenever somebody's going to be the founder of an organization like this, they obviously have a vision for a need that's not yet been met or a vision of what the future is going to look like.
Udacity was definitely pretty far ahead at that time of doing very short video segments interspersed with quizzes or challenges. And that seemed like the thing that we should definitely be doing.
So we launched these massive open online courses, and the first one had 160,000. So we hoped that the second one would get 500,000 students. And to our surprise, it only got 90,000 students. Then we launched another one and only got 5,000 students. So while we are being celebrated as the big disruptor, the heroes of the world who finally brings education into the 21st century, the numbers didn't work out.
The vision that we had earlier on, I wasn't sure was going to work, to be perfectly honest. I think we went through a really hard time.
So we teamed up with the local university and made the decision to offer credit-bearing courses. Credit is called currency in the college system. Credit-bearing courses publicly online for a small fee. So we said, just charge them $150. That's enough money. We're not that greedy, right? And that unfortunately fell flat in the face. It fell flat in the face because teacher unions didn't like that idea. The teacher unions told me, look, Sebastian, don't take this personal, but if you reduce tuition by 90%, our 44,000 employees that we represent won't be employed for much longer. So you're now enemy of state number one.
We were seen as monsters.
The New York Times called our work a flop. On the front page above the fold, so you have to flip it over to find out I'm a flop. The Financial Times picked it up and without talking to us said that we are temporarily going out of business. What I hadn't realized is I was at the perfect storm.
We asked a number of university presidents to come and represent the old world of education on stage today, and they all said no. Sebastian, why do you think that is?
Oh my God, I think it's an interesting time for higher education to really understand.
Sebastian shows amazing grace and dignity through these things, and just an amazing belief in the power of humanity.
I think it was the most hated professor of America. At least one, actually a t-shirt, most hated professor of America. I decided, you know what, in good Silicon Valley speak, that's an opportunity to learn. If you want to learn something, you're going to fall flat in your face, otherwise you're not learning anything, right? If you could predict what's going to happen, then don't do it. So let's do it again.
The beauty of Sebastian and working with him is he can be flexible. So we had a very hard pivot, invent your words, 2 years ago, where we decided to say, we're not focusing on replacing colleges, we're focusing on lifelong learning. That was a hard thing. Admitting that you might have been wrong, that's a really hard thing. That was all on him, and that's what he did. And he pushed us on this path toward nanodegrees, which is a very hard change for the company.
Udacity today is basically the reinvention of a university, of the way I believe a university should act. First of all, it's lifelong. I don't think we can live with a single education anymore. I think the technology is moving too fast, and we live too long, and our jobs are too short. But it's also the idea of using modern technology in education. Like, why not doing it online? Why not caching things away? Why does a professor give the same lecture year in, year out? When we educate, we believe that the outcome should be that a student, a graduate, should be able to find a job. How can we do this? Well, we go to companies in Silicon Valley and say, what type of people do you need? Machine learning engineers. What do you need? Android developers. What do you need? Self-driving car engineers. Turns out no university in the world teaches self-driving cars, so we do it. So we go then to companies and say, okay, you need self-driving car engineers. Tell us, Mercedes or whoever you are, Tesla, when they're done, what do you require for them to know?
The nanodegree conveys enough of a sense of formality. It's a really brilliant concept. Put together a solid curriculum that can demonstrate skills in an area and make it achievable in a timely manner.
What we're observing is we are a movement which is very unique, where the Udacity nano degree is now beginning to be on par with strong conventional college degrees in the hiring decision-making process.
We are all united today by the shared belief that learning has the power to uplift, to empower, and transform lives.
Intersect is our annual conference. We bring our students in and team them up with employers so they get hired.
Google's here in a couple of different functions. We have partnered with Udacity for many years to develop great developer training content. We have about 2.3 million students enrolled in those courses, all combined.
It's so amazing. Random students bump into me. They all know me from class. People from over 20 countries traveled here for this specific event, just to express in many ways their joy about the chance that they're given that they've never been afforded before.
Udacity helped me find a position. I am a vendor with ASG. I'm working at Google, and I get to be an iOS developer.
I found Udacity, started studying, and nano degree after nano degree.
It took me 5 months to study through the nano degree program. I was able to get a job the same week I graduated.
I really believe there's going to be a future where we all learn all our time, and we work really close with the companies that we'd love to work with and we adore. And you are making it possible. You are partners and you are students. Thank you.
Everything that he does, none of it, and this is not to sound derogatory, none of it is like a dating site or an e-commerce site, or let me flick through photos, none of it's that. It's like, can we take AI and, create a better way to figure out cancer? Can we take a self-driving car and have less accidents?
Auto driving.
Can we take some kind of learning and create new jobs? There are always these goals overall.
I think two things that really define Sebastian is sort of the crazy 10x thinking, but the other thing is like a really deep compassion and the democratizing education, really deeply caring about education for everyone.
The bravest thing that I've seen Sebastian do is Udacity. He was very well established in Google, could define pretty much any project he wanted to work on and work on it, and he gave that up.
Why did I leave Google? I was head of Google X, arguably running possibly the coolest lab on the planet. My name was in the news at least 3 times a week for something. And here I am giving up 97% of my salary, Google paid quite well, joining a little startup company for a small fraction of income, get no money at the time, and go after education. I can tell you, many of my colleagues were puzzled, as they had been puzzled before when I gave up my tenure at Stanford. But it occurred to me, I could be at Google and build a self-driving car. Or I can teach 10,000 students how to build self-driving cars. And then I serve humanity so much better. Wouldn't it be amazing if every single person in the world, if they just wanted to, could work here in Silicon Valley or do something similar at home? I think it'd be so game-changing. I mean, there's nothing bigger I can imagine that we can do than that. My perfect day is one where I am afforded the ability to do something for somebody else without the other person even noticing I'm doing it. Gravity shields. I don't watch science fiction, I make them. I love Teslas, and I happen to own a Tesla. A Volkswagen Beetle convertible. I love bicycling, I love running, I love skiing. Apparently I love fast motion. No. I sleep. I usually go from like 100% energy into sleep within like less than 30 seconds. I'd say I possess too many stupid things in my life. Maybe those shoes here? I'm scared when I do something that doesn't live up to my own values, and that happens. and then I'm really, really upset about myself. Yeah, I can't talk about that one. Today, talking to some of our students here, I realized they are smarter than me. Talking to Larry Page, you don't go to Larry Page to feel good about yourself, because he is wicked smart. But I love feeling dumb.